So I have to be sympathetic and compassionate to people who are also on the other side of this particular conversation, right? Facts alone aren't what rewire your neurons, right? It is that emotional connection or um, um, cultural understanding, right? I need to feel that someone understands me before I'm willing to listen to them giving another point of view. Because if they just give another point of view, but I feel like they don't understand me, I'm much less likely to be open to what they have to say.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people. And support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Welcome back to the Better Life for Animals podcast. I'm Cheryl Moss, and today we're talking about the power of connection and the importance of sanctuaries and how storytelling can make veganism feel truly relatable in everyday life. Our guest is Ayelette Robinson, an animal advocate, board member at Blue Barn Farm and Sanctuary, a member of the Leadership Council for Women Funders in Animal Rights as well. She brings a rich background in law, tech, and entertainment. And now she's channeling all of that into animal protection and compassionate storytelling. Ayelette, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me be here. It's an honor, and I love chatting with you always.
You have had such an interesting career. I've come to know you a little bit because we've been working together through the Blueprint Summit that you helped with
Mhm.
organize for us. And you've been such a supporter of Better Life for Animals. I can't thank you enough for that. But I'm just so interested in who is Ayelette Robinson?
How long do we have? No. Um, First of all, I do want to just quickly touch on that Blueprint Summit, the funding Blueprint for Sanctuary Summit, because I spent last year, I dived into the sanctuary world fairly soon after moving into animal advocacy because I immediately just felt a connection there. And I really spent a lot of that time thinking, oh my gosh, we need to do more for sanctuaries. And then you came along and were like, yes, we do. And I'm actually going to make it happen. So I just want to thank you so much because it was such a beautiful, beautiful event and so deeply needed. So thank you for that. I, yeah, okay, who am I? Um, so I am, I think part of my core identity truly is that I am multifaceted, and that's why you see kind of a lot of different things in my background, but it is how I thrive. So I really I like to tell the story that my first year in law school, I was so focused and dedicated, and I'm only gonna, focus on my classes. I'm gonna exclude all my hobbies and extracurricular activities and really focus. And I got B's. And which is perfectly fine, like perfectly wonderful and fine. But I came from a particularly extreme, I guess I'll say, academic background. And I was like, oh, B's, okay, whatever. And then my second year, I brought back in all of my hobbies and extracurricular activities, and not just legal, student associations, but also dance. Like I went back to ballroom dancing, and suddenly my grades went up to A's, right? So I work better with lots of different things going on. And I say that because that holds true as I've moved into animal advocacy as well. So having done, so I was a corporate lawyer many, many years ago, have not practiced for a while, but I've also been in the tech space. And just a year and a half ago, I was laid off and said, where do I really want to put my time and how do I want to nurture the world? And that's really another core part of me is that I've always had this incredibly deep connection to animals, which I get from my mother. And it it was such a no-brainer. Once I took that moment to reflect and ask myself that question, it took me a nanosecond to come up with the answer. I've always wanted to bring that animal protection work more central into my life. But as I've come into this space, there have been lots of different areas that I'm interested in, again, because I really like to, I love to absorb and learn and see what different people are doing in different spaces. So I am, I have made this conscious choice to really try to lead with compassion now through my work. And that is, of course, a big part of my vegan journey is really for me, it's so super grounded in compassion and connection to animals. And so I think that's how, and not to put it on a pedestal, because obviously there's a lot of balance with that and a lot of mistakes and a lot of moments in my life where I get frustrated and I maybe am not leading with compassion in that moment. But overall, I'm trying to make my life choices with that forefront.
Well, I can certainly appreciate what you're saying because I also like to have a lot going on in my life. I like to have a lot of interests. It just feeds me. Sometimes I look at people who are in one lane and that works for them, but I need a lot going on. As they say, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
And you strike me as a very busy person, and yet every time we've asked for your help, you are right there. So I appreciate that about you, among other things. So tell us how you went to law school and how did that go? And then what was your next career step and how did you end up in sanctuary work?
Yeah, so I exactly kind of coming off the point that we were just talking about, coming out of college, no idea what I wanted to do. Um, so I did work for a couple of years, then decided what I felt was I would like to be an expert in something, even though I don't have a specific thing that I am, that I know I want to do yet. I just want to be an expert in something. And talking to a variety of people, law seemed like a really good overlap for just my general sort of skills and personality type and what I was generally interested in doing kind of day to day. And so did go to law school, was actually a much more positive experience than I expected. I've always felt that if I'm doing hard work, I want to be paid for it. I don't want to be paying you for it. So I've never been a student at heart. Unlike, again, I know some people like want to be in grad school forever, but I've never really been a student at heart in that way. I've always kind of wanted to be in the working world, but it was a very, very positive experience and practiced and then did go into corporate law, which was also a positive experience for me. There's a lot of problem solving, creativity, analysis, strategy, relationship building. I mean, it's all the skills that, to this day I use, in pretty much most facets of my life. And I really enjoyed all of those facets. And so totally enjoyed it. But I was at a large law firm and simply knew that I didn't want to be a partner. And so that's when I started exploring other options and ended up in the legal technology space, which is what eventually brought me to product management in the software space. And so that was the bridge, kind of being in legal tech, was then the bridge to my most recent sort of professional work, which was software product management and even founding my own software for actors, which I did just sunset last year, which I feel good about, but obviously is bittersweet. So yeah, that's the quick version of my journey. But then have always volunteered at various animal organizations. And for a long time, I always felt that, dogs and cats, they get a lot of they're, amazing. I have several at home, companions at home, but they already get so much attention and resource. And this was even before I was in the animal advocacy space, specifically just felt, okay, they get a lot of attention. And in my heart of hearts, I know that all creatures are equal. So I always tried to find organizations that were working in areas that maybe got less attention. So again, at the time, it was more about like wildlife, for example. And so I was at a, wildlife rescue organization in Palo Alto for a while. And So that was my mindset of sort of the animals that weren't getting as much attention. And I had turned vegetarian in college. At the time, it was because I didn't want to eat any meat that my mom hadn't prepared. Um, but also growing up, we didn't actually eat meat at every meal anyway. We kind of had I don't know if it was 50-50 or might have even been minority meat. I'm not exactly sure, but it wasn't like required for every meal anyway. So went vegetarian in college and then really was just vegetarian for decades, for 30 years, because really I just thought, oh, I don't want to eat the carcass of an animal. Like I don't want to eat, a dead animal. But it didn't even dawn on me that sort of an animal, byproduct or something that was produced by an animal was inherently, bad. And it was supporting anything that was bad. And unfortunately, it was really just, again, it hurts me so deeply in my heart that I didn't learn about this earlier, but it was only about a year and a half ago that I saw something about the dairy industry and was thought, oh my God, like, of course. And just from that instant, I was like, okay, animal food, byproducts completely out. And for me, it was a very instant decision and like put into action just instantly because it was so I already had that belief that all species are equal. It was just that I didn't have the information to know that what I was doing didn't align with that. And as soon as I learned that what I was doing didn't align with that, I was like, oh, okay, here we are now practicing it. So that was pretty quick. And so then from that, learned more about the animal advocacy space and thought, okay, what really doesn't get attention is farmed animals, right? Like that's where we know that literally, so first of all the money that goes to animal welfare worldwide is something like 200 million. I mean, it is a half a drop in the bucket of all of the money that goes to nonprofits globally. It's such a small, percentage. And I don't know if that number is a little off, but it's about 200 million only. 99% of that goes to companion animals. 1%, or again, it might be two. I mean, my number might be like one or two off, but literally 1% of that, or 1 to 3% of that goes to aquatic animals, uh, invertebrates, um, research, experimental animal research. And, farmed animals gets like the smallest percent of that 1 to 3%, right, of this tiny amount globally that's going on. And so to me, it just became incredibly obvious that where I could do the most help was in this farmed animal space.
Do you think that because we are raised to believe animals are made for food, that that's why people turn a cold heart and a blind eye to the fact that you're eating an animal? And that's why so much of, I mean, as
Yeah.
you said, like 99% of all the philanthropic money goes to pets,
Yep.
companion animals.
Yep.
And people don't even want to spend their money on rescuing a cow or a pig or a chicken.
Yeah. 100%. Yes. There's no question that so much of it is embedded in culture. And actually, I know most of the conversation is about food, but just to touch on kind of non-food, right? I think I'd always bought cruelty-free anyway. And again, not that this is, again, this, solution, but it was like I only got leather and shoes, I didn't buy like leather bags or leather other things. So when it came to non-food, I would say I was most of the way there, already. But for me personally, the biggest change was just with the food byproducts. But I think that's absolutely right that we grow up thinking animals are here for our entertainment, right? Like go to a circus, right? Um, or a petting zoo even, right? Which might seem like, oh, we get to build connections, right? With animals. And so we absolutely, whether it's food or something outside food, it's so built in. And what that means is, right, our mental neurons, I mean, we know how hard it is to change our belief, right? It might even be a belief about judging ourselves about something, right? If we've believed that thing for decades, it takes a long time for us to rewire those neurons and stop believing that negative thing about ourselves. So, it's no wonder that when it comes to, people have grown up, and spent decades of their life thinking animals are here for our use, it's going to take a while, right, to rewire those neurons and to say, no, they're not here for our use. They are equal to us, maybe even better, but but at minimum, they are equal to us, and their life is not worth a sandwich, right? I mean, it's so um and that is where I also believe that the key to unlocking behavior change is about that culture and rewiring neurons, which takes time, right? It's not an instant. We know that facts alone don't do it. Um, and and it's not just about, oh, research shows that facts don't do it. I can tell you when someone wants to change my behavior, if they just show me, a chart of something, I'm like, okay, like I guess I see that that's the fact, but if it's my behavior that's ingrained in me, that doesn't make me change. So I have to be sympathetic and compassionate to people who are also on the other side of this particular conversation, right? Facts alone aren't what rewire your neurons, right? It is that emotional connection or um, um, cultural understanding, right? I need to feel that someone understands me before I'm willing to listen to them giving another point of view. Because if they just give another point of view, but I feel like they don't understand me, I'm much less likely to be open to what they have to say. And yeah.
So are you thinking, openings like saying like, I understand how you feel. I once felt that way too. Let me tell you what changed for me. Those kinds of soft openings are much more attractive to the general public because I'm so struck by listening to your story. Here you are, this intelligent, educated woman, and it even in today's world, it took you a while, like it's taken so many of us, to really, put all the points together to realize
Yeah.
how cruel this system really is because it's meant for us to ignore it. That's what society, it's set up that way. So I'm so fascinated to hear this, and it reminds me of myself, even this past weekend, spending a whole weekend with friends who I love, who are not vegan, and they watched me eat vegan all weekend. And what more could I have done, perhaps, other than showing myself as an example, to perhaps further that ball along?
Yeah. No, that's such a great example, Cheryl. And you're, I mean, again, one of the things that I have respected so much and admired so much about you is how you are so uh, reflectful. I don't know if that's a word. But you reflect so much on what does each thing mean and where can there be an impact and what can we do and it's really just been, anyway, I'll just say also it's just been so beautiful watching, not just watch like seeing the results of your work, but getting to be a fly on the wall while you work, a little bit here and there on calls, because I see how much you are led by your heart and your compassion and yeah, like what more can you do, right? But be an example and an inspiration to people. And it's such a hard question. I think what I wish people had said to me 30 years ago is you don't have to listen to what anyone else has to say. Do you just go to Google? Well, Google didn't, wasn't prominent 30 years ago, but um, you know, go do your own research and just search, hey, what are factory farming's impacts on, animals and the environment? You search it, you see what comes up, and then you think about what values you hold dear and see how you might bring those two together. And I think that might have been, it's like let people figure it out when they're a part of their own decision. Rather than feeling like it was forced upon them, I think and again, me being on the receiving end of this too, right? Like you feel much more invested, not only in making the decision, but in sticking with the decision. And this just works for like team decision making in general, right? Like if everyone feels like they're a part of the decision, they just own the result a lot more. But I think that's true really on a personal behavior change level as well. If you're pushing a lot of stuff on me, especially if it's traumatic, right? It's really easy to just block it off and feel like you don't understand me, you don't, whatever. But but yeah, I think in addition to just being an inspirational example and showing that it's joyful and positive and aspirational, it's not restrictive or negative, but it's actually something that's joyful to be a part of. I think that's where it feels like, oh, I want to be part of that, as opposed to it's just going to make me cut off things that I currently enjoy and love. So yeah, just being like, what else can you do? I mean, I think just being an example of you can live, not only can you live this life joyfully, but everyone who lives it does live it joyfully. I think is yeah, a big part of it. And then encourage people to come to the decision on their own.
And you are such an inspiration because look at all of the talents you bring to the party. Because we both know that this problem is massive and that it's going to take all of us and whatever, be it you're an attorney, you're an actor, you're an, a tech person, all of these skills are needed in this space. We need everyone because you and I both know that this is not sustainable. It's going to go away. One day we're going to look back and go, that was just horrific, but we're not there yet. But we have to be a part of making that happen because the animals need us. Because I know you feel this way too. It's like, in the end, it's all about these animals that are suffering at our hands every second of every day.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
If you are just joining us, we are having a lovely conversation with Ayelette Robinson, and I'm Cheryl Moss of Better Life for Animals. So Ayelette, tell us about Blue Barn, because you know how much we care about our sanctuaries here on this episode. I love that you are not only a volunteer, but that you have joined the board and that you are really a leader in this movement.
Yeah. And by the way, I did not just put the Blue Barn cookbook up here for this session. I promise you it
That's
lives
okay.
here.
Happy to show it.
So, but should you want to enjoy some delicious vegan recipes, they are here. Get our cookbook. So yeah, Blue Barn is, well, I will say that again, just from a life point of view, it is a group of powerful, empathetic women, which is very inspiring for me to be a part of. So that's just, yeah, count me in. But as far as what initially attracted me to the work was, you know, yes, there's the animal sanctuary. For me personally, direct interaction with animals is what fills my gas tank, just period, full stop. So for me, it's what fills me up. I love to be connected to that as much as possible. And Melissa, our ED, is so, I mean, again, she just, as with many sanctuaries, but she's so deeply personally invested with, caretaking of these animals. And to me, she's a perfect example of the joy of it. If you follow our social media, our handle on everything is just at Blue Barn Sanctuary. But please follow us. But you'll see through her videos that her connection to the animals and the work is joyful. And that's what I think is just so inspiring and, just invites people in, which is what we need. But she also is this great humane education leader. And that's another thing for me specifically that I feel like when it comes to changing the world, I feel like that comes through that connection between humans and other species. So when we really build that connection and show and kind of again kind of lead by example, but teach kids and adults that they're all as equally sentient as we are and have as much individual personality, and they have so many skills and things that we don't have that are, again, I'm in awe of. Whether it's, scent or, being able to feel the electrical, impulses from the earth or the gravitational pull from the earth or echolocation or, I mean, there's so many things that animals can do that we can't see. Ultraviolet colors. Birds can see ultraviolet colors. We can't do that, like what? So as the more that we sort of learn how sentient and personalities, full of personality they are, the more we learn to be empathetic, right? And just have these emotional connections to all species. It it just obviously it makes the world a better place in very broad terms, but I think it just brings out people's compassion not only for, these other species, but then also in their human interactions and can make our communities and societies just more compassionate in general. So Blue Barn's investment in and I think kind of leadership in sort of humane education programming and how embedded Melissa is in the local community is really kind of the seed that can sprout and kind of grow and just spread more broadly.
I think it was Leah Garces who's famous for saying that compassion is a muscle, and that the more that you exercise it, the more you
Yes.
feel, the heart is big enough to hold it all. And we have been taught to shut it down. So to get out there and be with the animals and to experience them on their terms, with their amazing gifts that don't have to, you know, support me personally, that's not why they're here.
Yes, exactly.
It's a joyful feeling, and you're absolutely right, Ayala, when you say that this is not a struggle. What the lifestyle that we have chosen is a privilege and a joy, and the more people that take it on will allow the rest of the population to see it, and more animals can live on their own terms, and we won't be stuck in these concrete jungles.
Yep.
Well, I love that you're working with Blue Barn, and I love that you're working with us. We had this wonderful, blueprint summit last January. It was a big success, and we got our supporters to understand that there are some best practices. I know that you helped us, put that together. And as you know, we have at Better Life for Animals a lot of plans to continue with that, the educational piece through LEAP and Daniel Hannish, and also to continue with, business practices and, fundraising best practices so that all of our sanctuaries out there can thrive, can grow, can, even connect. That's often
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
a big part of it because they can feel a little isolated,
Mhm.
so that we can all see this as a bigger success story, so that there are more, in the end, people that get out there to see what we both know is magical.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the fact that you are also an actress, and I understand that we're working on a documentary.
Not a documentary, actually.
Oh,
Fiction, specifically fiction. Yes.
okay. Well,
Yes.
do
I
tell.
can. So, as there's a few reasons actually for this. First of all, I am an actor, and so my kind of other interest lies in narrative storytelling. I also, from an animal advocacy point of view, feel that people are the audience for narrative or fiction stories is this compared to the audience for documentaries is here. So
Okay.
by embedding these stories into narrative, it's just that it has a much broader potential for
Okay.
audience. The other thing is I think storytelling through narrative is just, again, I think for a lot of people that's just more moving actually. I mean, documentaries is, yes, you're seeing what really happens, but for example, the research shows that for vegan documentaries, people's intentions and maybe even behavior change immediately after. Not everyone, but there's a percentage that they change their intentions, behavior, but it doesn't quite that like that heartfelt connection doesn't quite last like that long. Like a lot of those people that initially were like, oh my gosh, from the documentary, they actually revert their behavior. And so after some period of time. And I think that obviously one fiction movie isn't going to, necessarily make a difference, but if we can embed it into lots of different TV shows, movies, etc., that's where big changes happen. I mean, the public's behavior and perceptions really do change after seeing, something on TV, like something is possible. There's, a black person in leadership. Oh my gosh, what? But like when they see that on a TV show that gains a lot of that feels aspirational, right? Like this is actually cool that this is the situation and this is right. That's when the public thinks of it as cool and like something that they want to be a part of. And so that's really my hope and dream is that we can sort of weave it into mainstream TV rather than have it be something that, first of all, even the people who want to watch a documentary, and not that they're not, don't get me wrong, there's, I feel like, I'm not, I just think the audience for them is smaller.
Mhm.
Because even to get to the point where you watch a documentary, you either already have to be thinking that way, that it's an interest of yours, or you have a friend or a colleague who specifically says, hey, come and watch this with me, right? So, whereas with, embedding it in mainstream workflows, basically, which is kind of the same thing with technology, like you want to embed things in mainstream in like workflows that are already happening, that's where you can, I think, get to more people essentially and rewire things a little bit more. So the film that I am partnering with the Sanctuary founder actually on, she's the writer.
Oh,
I'm actor producer Lanes. She's writer and potentially director Lane. So it is a holiday movie baking competition show where the protagonist will she actually leaves a corporate job and for her lifelong dream of being a baker, but she is vegan. And so really it's not going to be about even talking about her vegan, like there might be some reference to it somewhere, but the idea is that we normalize it. Basically, just in the context of something fun and joyful and delightful, you can be all those things that you want to be and also be vegan. Like it doesn't have to be the focus. It doesn't have to be. I think of this a lot also when it comes to disability representation on camera, right? We don't need to bring someone disabled on just for the sake of like their storyline being about how they became disabled or how they deal with it. Like they can just be a surgeon, right? And like happen to be disabled, right? Like it doesn't have to be like it's showing that, vegans can kind of be in the regular sphere and also just happen to be vegan. You don't have to lose everything you loved or, disconnect with all of your social, connections or, something like that. So really my goal with it is to normalize it and show it as something joyful and delightful. So yeah, and then there's also this idea that it's going to be a mockumentary. So along the lines of, Christopher Guest, but like Best in Show, so that kind of thing. So yeah, really the goal is to have it be completely just fun and delightful. And yeah, yeah.
well, I love that. You're right about documentaries. They're very informative, but sometimes they focus on hard truths, whereas a mockumentary is fun. And I like the idea that we're normalizing things. I'd love to see more animals that are just there. They're not, performing for us in some fashion. There's so many movies about animals that saved us or, made the grand prize and therefore they're worthy of living. I want to see less of that and more of they're just out there in the scenery being themselves.
Yeah.
But this is right back to where we started, that you're so multifaceted and you have so many skill sets that allow you to be a very effective. And we, I know, are so thankful to have you in this advocacy space because we need people like you. And I'm going to say that because we love sanctuaries and we care about fundraising, that you should take that book behind you and put it out and let us see it and tell us about it, and happy to promote anything to do with helping out Blue Barn Sanctuary.
Absolutely. So, and thank you for the opportunity. So, and actually, why don't I pick I'll pick a recipe to show you. So yeah, so Blue Barn Sanctuary, absolutely bluebarnsanctuary.org. We have events, lots of events that are local to the in the Creswell, Oregon area. But also I think are again, because I don't run the social media, I can speak highly of it. Melissa does such a beautiful job on our socials. The videos of the animals are just amazing. So please follow us on, yeah, Instagram, Facebook. And one of the things that I specifically want to mention, and as I'm like looking for an amazing recipe, I mean, all of them are good. Want to mention is that if you are specifically looking to make a difference for sanctuaries, which I know many of you, listening to this probably are, the biggest difference you can make is to become a monthly donor. And the reason that matters so much is that sanctuaries who are often working on shoestring budgets, when we get a one-time donation, which is amazing, it means that we can, cover our costs now, but we don't necessarily have the reliability that we can cover our costs tomorrow. And so when you become a monthly donor, it means that we can actually do things on a more strategic and planning scale because we can count on having the support 6 months from now. So we can plan to go to twice as many schools, for example, with our, spread kindness campaign. We can, do sort of plan ahead for these broader events that are then going to, spread compassion and really expand the work that we're doing because we can count on that support in the longer term. So I definitely invite you, of course, so you can actually become a monthly donor for Blue Barn. You can absolutely discover it just through our website, if that's easy to remember, bluebarnsanctuary.org. You can also go to our Patreon site. And again, it's Blue Barn Sanctuary handle on Patreon. And I really encourage you to become a monthly donor. And really, that is because it allows us to amplify our work so much greater, knowing that we have this reliability and stability. So I do want to throw that out there. And then also, what I specifically wanted to show, here, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I was specifically, oh, here we go. Yay. Okay, blueberry pancakes. Sorry. There's lots of different delicious recipes in here, but the pancakes are really delicious. So, anyway, very easy to make. So, and actually, I will also share that we highlight an animal from the sanctuary with every recipe. So the pancake one is particularly around Jerome, who is a Swedish blue duck. And he lost his partner. So basically, we took him in as a senior
Oh.
and received care for his arthritis. But yeah, anyway, loves lots of treats and yeah, anyway, he has since passed away, but he is who we highlighted together with these with this particular recipe. But you'll get to learn stories about all the different animals that have been or are at Blue Barn right now.
And isn't that
Available
interesting
on the
how
website.
when you talk about an animal, that's lost his partner, that how sad that is and how that just connects us as people. That's why I know you're so invested in storytelling and its power.
Yep.
That's amazing because I'm feeling it right now.
I
So,
know, right? Like I'm getting tears in my eyes. Yeah.
yeah, let's all make blueberry pancakes, in honor, right?
In honor of the Swedish blue.
That's right. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like to share? And I would definitely want to know how we can get a hold of you and follow you. I'm looking forward to this mockumentary. Please tell us how to stay in touch.
Thank you, Cheryl. So the easiest way is through LinkedIn. You'll see essentially all my work, both my my advocacy work, and my there's a summary of my acting there and link to my acting website there as well. So on LinkedIn, you can search my name, and I'll spell that. So my first name Ayelette is Ayelette. And then last name Robinson is pretty easy. Robinson Crusoe, Robinson. So if you search my name, thankfully there aren't a lot with that name, so I'll come up right away. But also my handle on LinkedIn is Ayelette. Is my first name Ayelette. And yeah, pretty much you can access everything through there. And yeah, honestly, if you just search my name online, you'll probably find, my acting website, LinkedIn. I have the luck of having an unusual name. So yeah.
Well, Ayelette Robinson, thank you for being on our show today. You are such a treasure. I'm so thankful to have you in my life. And I know that you are doing amazing work for the animals and will continue to make a big difference for the planet. So if you have enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe so that we can create a better life for animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.